trusts Bad Sisters showrunner and actor Sharon Horgan to finish the second season of the hit Apple TV Plus series with a literal cliffhanger, which happens to also be titled Cliffhanger. In the 8th and final episode of the season, the surviving Garvey sisters, Eva, Horgan, Phoebe, Sarah Green, Ursula, Eva Berthasell, and Becca, Eve Hewson, find themselves once again dealing with a dead body after Angelica, Fiona Shaw, thwacks abusive conman Ian, Owen McDonnell, over the head and leaves him apparently dying in a pool of blood. Deciding to dispose of Ian's corpse, the sisters load him into the trunk of their car and plan to throw him off the side of the cliff. But when they reach their destination, it turns out he's not as dead as they thought. Bleeding and disoriented, Ian escapes the trunk and manages to accidentally throw himself off the side of the cliff, although even that doesn't finish him off. Which leaves the Garvey girls with a dilemma: leave Ian to perish on a cliff face, or call an ambulance. After some squabbling, they ultimately decide to do the latter, finishing the season with a mirror image of Season 1, where Grace survived while her abusive first husband JP, aka the Prick, played by Claes Bang, was murdered. Ahead of the Season 2 finale dropping on Apple TV+, the cast and lead director Derbla Walsh sat down with Variety to discuss shooting on a cliff edge, why the sisters decide to grant Ian mercy, and whether plans are already afoot for Season 3. Sharon, how did you land on the Ian storyline? Sharon Horgan: the idea of "can lightning strike twice" was the first idea because women who've been in that situation have been in an abusive relationship. They don't necessarily walk into a healthy one. Also, they can be targeted. I was nervous in case it was a foolhardy idea just to immediately lead with that, but then everything else that built around it, like what happens to Grace, came out the writer's room, and again, felt a bit bold. We wanted to show that collateral damage of having a man like JP in your life, and just because he's dead doesn't mean that the pain goes away, and her guilt, and her conscience. She's a very good person who was put in a horrific situation, and would she ever just move on with life? Derbla Walsh: that was such a shock, the success of the Prick in TV terms, and how much people loved to hate him. And then in doing this second season, not wanting to just say, here's Prick Generation 2. Anne-Marie, what were your thoughts on Grace's relationship and how she twice ended up with an abuser? Anne-Marie Duff: I think, sadly, a lot of women and men who find themselves in unhealthy love relationships are repeat offenders until they work out why they're doing it. There's a horrible inevitability about it, and that's what makes it so tragic, because he seems like the ideal man. I mean, Owen is so handsome and so charming. It's perfect casting, so you feel devastated, the audience. And then for Eva to become slightly involved with him, and her to make the discovery. That's so complex and clever. But sadly, I think there is a sad inevitability about it, isn't there? Did you work on a backstory for Grace, and why she's inclined toward abusive relationships? Duff: I think we all discussed the fact that we, the Garvey sisters, lost our parents very young. Trauma evolves differently in everybody. Some people wear it like a fedora hat. Some people just do everything they can to heal themselves. Some people are collapsers. And I think she tried to find safety in somebody else's spinal column, and that never works. That final scene on the cliff's edge was shot on location in the middle of winter. How close to the edge were you actually shooting? Horgan: we were right up to the edge, but we all had harnesses. Terrifying. We all had safety buddies with us as well. But it was right there. You get this weird confidence from having the harness, and you have to actually not lean into it because otherwise the fear goes, and we look way too comfortable. Walsh: I remember giving you the note. Okay, can we do that again? And this time can you look like it's actually dangerous? Sarah Green: Derbla had to remind us that this is actually quite scary. But the weather that night was absolutely chaotic. Every time we went on set, it rained, so we spent most of the night in our trailer together, napping in the bed. It was quite a nice time. The crew were soaked. But yeah, it was a real cliff. It's not CGI. It's not a studio somewhere. Derbla really wanted to put us on the cliff's edge.